I'm thrilled to welcome everyone to the 12th cabinet meeting of our administration, and we're doing something that no administration's ever done. We're always letting the press join us because we're very open and transparent. We like the word transparent, but we're more transparent than any administration in history. No, to the best of my knowledge, press has never been invited ever to a cabinet meeting for any reason at all. And it's an honor to have you. This team has achieved more than most other administrations achieve in 8 years.
Today, we're breaking down President Trump's cabinet meeting, where it focused heavily on Iran, fraud, and federal law enforcement. Thanks for being here with us this morning. Good to see you. I'm Vanessa Broussard. On Iran, President Trump signaled he is prepared to stay tough on Tehran, saying Iran misjudged the United States. And he warns America will not back down under pressure. Top officials stress the administration still prefers diplomacy over a wider war.
We're doing really equally as well with, but again, people don't want to write about it, with Iran. Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but now we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. But their Navy is gone, as I've said 1,000 times. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Everything's gone, and they're negotiating on fumes. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it. Maybe we don't. Right now, I mean, you can speak to Steve Witkoff and Jared. They're doing a good job. But right now, I think it looks like they want to just make a deal. They want to. They have. I don't think they have a choice. They're just going back to the internet because they're getting clobbered. Their economy is in free fall. They have 250% inflation. Their money has no value. Their whole economic system is broken down. They thought they were going to outweight me. You know, we'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms. People understand it. They know that. Very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I'm doing that for the world. I'm not doing it just for us. And we've had great support from other nations, by the way. We don't need it at all, but we've had great support from other nations. The problem is you always get the support when you don't need it. When you need it, you don't get the support. With Operation Epic Fury, our warriors are ensuring that the world's #1 state sponsor of terror never obtains a nuclear weapon, and they won't.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth described the current strategy as a maximum lethality without deploying American ground troops. President Trump also warned no foreign nation will control the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical oil shipping routes, as concerns grow over rising oil and gas prices here at home. Now, when it comes to the anti-fraud crackdown, Vice President J.D. Vance laid it out perfectly. Vance says the federal government has identified nearly $160 billion in fraudulent spending and improper payments involving COVID relief funds, Medicaid, student aid programs, and federal contracts. Here he is updating the president.
First of all, thank you for your leadership, sir, and for making it possible. I often find in the Fraud Task Force that there sometimes are barriers that we need to break down, agencies that need to coordinate, and I'll come to the president and say, Mr. President, I need your permission to do, he'll say, for what? For the Fraud Task Force, and he'll cut me off and say, yes, go do it. So the fact that we have dedicated presidential leadership is really what's made this possible, because it does require, we've got great people around the table, but sometimes these agencies don't know how to work together at the lower level, and that's one of the things we've had to turn on and force with the fraud task force. So I want to shout out just a few all-stars here. Linda at the Department of Education has been amazing at finding student loan fraud. You've got people who are either illegal aliens or aren't even actually real human beings who are getting hundreds of millions of dollars from the Department of Education for student loans. We have cut that off. We found a lot. We're going to find a lot more. Scott at HUD has been amazing because a lot of the fraud that we see is housing fraud, people claiming benefits that they're not entitled to, or again, sir, sometimes completely made up people who exist purely to collect fraudulent money from the American taxpayer. Brooke at the Department of Agriculture, something I had no idea until I started this work, sir, that we send hundreds of billions of dollars to the states to administer the food stamp program. The federal government has no insight into whether those food stamps are going to people who are legally entitled or whether those people actually even exist. And so we're working on a number of mechanisms to actually force the states to verify that the people who receive these benefits are actually entitled to them. And I could go down the list. I've gotten a lot of support from a lot of people in this room. Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz have been particular all-stars on this, and Kim at H&HS. What they've done with the Medicaid fraud, we found tens of billions of dollars in Medicaid and Medicare fraud just from their hard work. We've cut that off, and yes, Mr. President, we're going to find a lot more. The final thing I want to say, Mr. President, and I know that Todd maybe has something to say about this as well, but I always try to remind the American people, and certainly remind the cabinet officials. By the way, Kelly at SBA has found tens of billions of dollars that were from fraudulent loans that were giving under the Biden administration, and we've now cut that off and recovered a lot of that money. So this has been a whole of government effort, Mr. President. The team really deserves a great deal of credit here. But the final point I want to make, sir, is I always try to remind the American people that fraud is fundamentally a crime with two victims. The most obvious victim are the American taxpayer. They pay their taxes, they expect the money to go where it should go, and that's not happening because of the fraudsters. But there are also victims, people who benefit from these programs that don't exist if we're not actually taking care of the fraud issue. And let me just give one example to build on something you said earlier, sir. One of the people that Todd just prosecuted was a person who was collecting a lot of money from the American taxpayer to take care of elderly citizens, people who worked their entire lives, paid their taxes, should have had dignity and nobility in old age, but it was deprived from them from fraudsters who say that they're taking care of them, who collect a check to take care of them, but then abuse and neglect these people, and particularly one man who died because he wasn't getting adequate care, and that guy was still collecting benefits to take care of a person who he had completely neglected. So not only do you have an American taxpayer who's paying into these programs, you have an elderly citizen deprived of his dignity because we're not going after the fraudsters. Well, now we are.
How much money did he get?
Sir, hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more than that, but we think that that exact type of fraud has been replayed all over our country. That particular case was outside of Minneapolis. We expect that there are tens of thousands of people who are collecting fraudulent money to take care of people, and they're not actually taking care of them. We're, of course, going to get to the root of as much of it as we can. But again, sir, it's been, I wouldn't say fun, because you find out how much people have been taken advantage of, but it's certainly very good and valuable work. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Those fraudsters are gross, and the Trump administration reiterates that fraud will not be tolerated, and taxpayers are demanding accountability from Washington. DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin updated the president as well on the ICE raids and the violent protests going on in New Jersey. Here's video of protests and the protesters clashing with ICE agents yesterday. Let's listen in.
Stay back. Get back. Push him back. Push him back.
This has been going on for several nights in New Jersey. Mullen warns all these protesters assaulting federal officers will be prosecuted.
It shows this radical left Democrats' priorities when they decide to go out and protest a detention center where we're housing rapists, child predators, murderers, drug dealers, and they choose Memorial Day of all the time to go protest something that they say that that it's because they're on a hunger strike when there was only a handful of individuals that was refusing to eat because they want their ethnic group or their ethnic right food. Well, they can go back to their country and get whatever food they want. The fact is, we're giving them the calories they want. This isn't Holiday Inn. We're giving them sanitation. But for the Democrats and the governor, like Governor Sherrill and Senator Kim and Senator Booker, to go out and do something like this of all the days is very frustrating. And we see Antifa signs are literally out there. The local police literally refusing to respond. They barricade it, not allowing our employees to come in and out. ICE has to go out there, remove the barricade, and then you have one of the senators complain because he got splattered with a pepper ball. I'm sorry, you probably shouldn't have been there.
ICE is holding the line, though, as the Delaney Hall detention facility in Newark is ground zero for all of these protesters. Mullen criticizes Democratic officials for supporting the protest, arguing they are siding against federal law enforcement during these tense standoffs. As you just heard, he says this isn't the Holiday Inn, and unhappy detainees should go back home to their home country if they don't like it here. LINDELLTV was inside that cabinet meeting, and we asked President Trump about the recent news of Joe Biden suing the DOJ. Now, here's the story. He's suing to stop the release of audio recordings and transcripts connected to special counsel Robert Hur's classified documents investigation. Well, the recordings involve Biden's private interviews with a biographer from 2016 and 2017, which later became part of Hur's investigation into Biden's handling of classified materials after serving as vice president. We asked President Trump about this. Here's his response.
Thank you so much for having us in here today. What are your thoughts? Why do you think that Joe Biden is trying to sue the Department of Justice, former President Joe Biden, to have his tapes that he did interviews on blocked from the American people hearing them? Do you think that he's trying to hide something? And maybe Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche could comment on if they will countersue and release those tapes to the American public.
Are you talking about it with respect to his book?
With respect to his
Well, I'd
memoirs.
like to see it. I don't know. Maybe there's some constitutional reason. I don't know. I would like to see what he has to say, because we can never allow what happened to this country to happen. The man was grossly incompetent, and the Democrats, I call them the Democrats because the policy is so bad, but they came very close to destroying our country. We can never let it happen again, and I hope that you're able to produce that. I think it would be a very interesting reading for people.
Biden's legal team argues that releasing the tapes would be an unwarranted invasion of privacy, and says the conversations were never meant to be public. In our Busted segment today, illegal aliens apprehended in Texas. DPS troopers saying 7 illegal immigrants attempted to evade capture on a private ranch. Then 12 other illegals were apprehended on a private ranch. The groups are from different countries, including Mexico, Guatemala, India, Ecuador, and Cuba. Authorities say they were dressed in camouflage. Didn't work. A canine and U.S. Border Patrol assisted in the tracking locations and apprehensions of these groups. And meanwhile, in Ohio, a statewide human trafficking operation. 122 people arrested, seeking to buy sex, including from minors. That's according to authorities. And here's video from the operation.
Human trafficking doesn't occur in a vacuum. It thrives in the shadows. Businesses, online spaces, and neighborhoods that are too often overlooked.
The Asian massage parlors are everywhere. As soon as we close one down, they open back up.
Homeless police!
That's why we launched Operation Spring Cleaning. We're shutting down massage parlors tied to exploitation. We're targeting online predators seeking minors. And we're putting traffickers and buyers on notice.
The state of Ohio really invest the money, invest the time, invest the manpower and technology to really look into this and then provide holistic services.
The Akron Summit County area is busier than we can handle.
Human trafficking is a supply and demand business, just like drugs. If somebody wasn't looking to have illegal sex, there wouldn't be victims being trafficked. So don't, period, don't.
The massage parlor that you visit might be the target of our next search warrant. The teen you think you're talking to online could just be one of our agents. If you're trying to buy sex in Ohio, you probably don't want to, because our folks are out there watching.
I realize that prostitution is as old as time. It's in our Bible. You know, we all talk about it, we know about it, we realize that it's there, but it is not a victimless crime.
People don't realize that a lot of these people may be forced into doing these things when they don't want to.
This coordinated crackdown brought together law enforcement agencies from the state, local, and federal government across Ohio to combat human trafficking and protect victims. When we work together, we make our communities safer.
When the Attorney General puts out how many people we arrest and their professions, it's astounding. So that partnership is really, really critical for the success.
These weekly stings that the Attorney General's office puts on, usually by the end of the week, there are good things that have happened.
I appreciate AG Yost, had dedicated all this time. The 8 years that he's been here, he has done so many of operations such as like this.
Victims and survivors, we believe you. We are here to help you. There are so many areas that we can take you to keep you safe, get you away from your trafficker.
We're going to continue to fight this fight.
If you see something, report it, and don't buy sex in Ohio.
Sex trafficking. Today, a survivor speaks out about the horrors and overcoming a nightmare. Dr. Juliet Engel is with us here today to tell her story. Dr. Engel, it's so good to have you on. Thanks so much for being here with us. You know firsthand how American children are exploited. Let's go back to the beginning on how this happened to you.
Well, first of all, good for Ohio. I wish every state would do what Ohio just did. Yeah, my story is I was born into basically human trafficking, but it was government-sponsored child trafficking. I'm old. I'm 77. I was born in 1949. My entire family was involved in intelligence during the war, OSS, CIA. They became the founders of the NSA. CIA was founded in 1947, and in 1953, they started the MK Ultra program, which was the project I was in was Project Monarch, where they took their own children and basically, and I was physically sold to the Monarch group by my father, who when I was 6 years old, who took me to meet someone who molested me, and while I watched my father taking payment for me. And for the next 11 years, I lived in what they called CIA safe houses. We called them annexes, where children were being programmed to develop dissociative identities. We were tortured, abused, starved, and taught to basically follow orders, and our handlers taught us how to manipulate crowds, to manipulate other people. So I was being raised as an entertainer, as a musician, and as in a program called Sex Magic, where I learned to manipulate other people through sexual energy. It was their sexual energy, not mine. and get people to do things they didn't want to do. I think you're seeing that all over the country now. You're seeing people who've been through the program. I mean, statistically, in 1976, the Congress had the only hearings they've ever had on the MK Ultra program before it was classified 18 levels above the president as top secret. Um, and at that time, there were 150 sites actively working with uh, American citizens unwittingly being drugged and abused and mind controlled and having their memories affected, being given LSD and being forced to do things. Um, so that was in 1976. They claimed it stopped then. Of course, it didn't. And it's continued and has become increasingly successful. And now they're able to use electronic devices, which is what they planned on back in the 1950s. When I was in the program, they were already talking about cybernetics and implanting Turing machines, which became uh, computers, in people's minds and being able to control people remotely. I think we're there. I think that now there are, let's see, it's 1976, there were thousands of people in the program. I think now there's probably 1 million survivors who are living with the effects of this programming and responding to signals that are sent out that make them violent or riot or do things they wouldn't ordinarily do. So mind control is a big problem in this country, and it's a big part of human trafficking, and it's a large part of why we aren't responding. You know, how did it get this bad? Ohio is taking the step that every state in this country should be taking. And that's only one aspect of the trafficking. They're addressing demand, which is critically important, but they also should be doing prevention, education, and they also should be working with survivors to provide shelters and safe spaces. It looks like that sheriff's doing a wonderful job with that, but that's the rare, rare, rare exception in this country. And in my experience, I worked for 20 years in the former Soviet Union, uh, which is, if you want my story, my book Sparky covers my life as a child survivor of MK Ultra, and then of my time that I spent in Russia, where I organized an underground railroad to rescue and repatriate trafficking victims, and then came back to the United States and realized that it's as bad here as it is over there, except that getting interest from the people of the United States is much more difficult than it was in Russia. I mean, they wanted to change everything. They wanted to capture the criminals. They wanted to end the trafficking. When I'm in returning here for the last 10 years, it's been very difficult to even get meetings or get presentations or information that I put up gets taken down. I'm permanently banned from Wikipedia because of my successful child trafficking efforts overseas. And we need to change that. That needs to be improved. And the reason why I'm presenting it this way is the two things are linked. You had the CIA start a massive mind control program in the 1950s. And I can tell you that the people like me in their 70s who are remembering what they were telling us, what they were teaching genocide. They were teaching that the nation should be divided into the ruling goats and the mass of sheep, and that the sheep deserve to be abused and die. And this was in the 50s. This is what they were. This was the message that the future leaders of our country were growing up with. And it only became more sophisticated, more complicated over time. And now you're seeing the result because the population is mind-numbingly um, controlled and does not respond to human trafficking. I mean, I think this story in Ohio should be the biggest thing in the country today, and that we should have responses from all states.
You're absolutely right. And I know that during the last administration, we saw hundreds of thousands of kids just turn up missing. Trump's
Yes.
administration is doing what they can to find and locate these children. It's hard to comprehend your story. As a child, if there's anyone you trust, it's your parents, it's your mother, it's your father. A child loves their parents. And so for your father to put you through this, it's just hard for me to fathom first. And also at such a young age, 6 years old. And you go through this for years, you're trafficked, you're abused. They created multiple identities for you. I want to go back to something you just mentioned about how they almost brainwash you to believe certain things. What are they doing to these children? What did they do to you to make you believe that this was okay?
Well, a lot of satanic ritual abuse is what they used, and they got these techniques from the Germans who'd done this in the concentration camps at Nuremberg. And in my family, I had 5 uncles who were German speakers and in the intelligence services who were in Nuremberg, who then subsequently worked with the Nazi scientists who were supposedly executed were not. In fact, they were brought by the hundreds to the United States, to Huntsville, Alabama, where they were resettled, given new identities, and distributed across the United States, and given fundings to do all kinds of program, including the mind control, to continue their work with mind control that they brought from the concentration camps. And in my opinion, that they should have been hung. What they did to the individuals in the camps is unspeakable. They should have paid a price for that. They didn't. They were rewarded. And the techniques that they developed from those camps should have been destroyed at Nuremberg. Instead, they've been used on the American population, and and it's satanic in its creation. And the last 6 years that I was in the program before I escaped at the age of 17, I was at the Presidio, which is it's an old fort in the northwest corner of San Francisco. And underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, which originates there, is another very ancient fort, and that's called Fort Point. And that was the headquarters of the Western Command of the U.S. Army. It was also the head of psychological warfare for the U.S. Army, and it was where I was a classmate. This would be in the early 60s. I was a classmate of Michael Aquino, and a little bit older than me was Anton LaVey. Now, they're the founders of the Church of Satan. They used kids like me to, they called it time traveling, but there were a lot of drugs involved. I don't know. I can't say that we actually time traveled, but we created a lot of stories. And that was the process of writing the Satanic Bible and creating the Temple of Set. And they were allowed to promote this through the U.S. military. So these things are so deeply interconnected and linked that to start taking them apart is essential, I think, for the survival of our country. We can't go forward with a mind-controlled population.
Right. And there's so many groups and organizations and people trying to brainwash our children from sex trafficking to what they're learning in schools and school libraries, online, on social media. We have to protect our children at all costs. Child sex trafficking is very hard to escape. You mentioned you were 17 years old. Juliet, how did you do it?
I was often taken to I was becoming a musician and entertainer, so and the whole sex magic program created the stars you see today, the ones that draw the huge crowds and fill the stadiums, because those are all artificial creations, and I was on that path. I wanted to get off that path. So I was often taken to promotional events where I was like a party favor. So I was taken to what was then Murphy Hot Springs. It's now a very swanky resort in Monterey, but then it was a barn and a hot springs and an enclosure and a cornfield. And they were flying in record executives to listen to music. So it was musicians like John Phillips. Actually, Charles Manson was there. He was one of their like studio musicians. He was actually quite a good musician. And oh, a lot of, I could name others that were there who are alive, but I don't want to, they weren't really involved. They were victims like me. Um, so during that, there was an opportunity. You couldn't escape. For one thing, every time I was in one of these annexes, they took away my shoes. So I could never, I tried once to escape from Fort Point, which is under the Golden Gate Bridge. And one of the memories that stayed in my mind was trying to walk across the Golden Gate Bridge barefoot because I was trying to escape from Fort Point. But eventually my feet gave out and I got picked up by police and taken back to Fort Point. And it was always the same. So in at the hot springs when they were playing the concerts and I was dancing around in a mini skirt with no underwear, um, and getting the record executives high on drugs so that they could be compromised with photographs so they could be later be blackmailed. And while they were high, they could sign all these contracts with musicians who really weren't very good. Um, I took I took the opportunity when someone came through the gate. Uh, actually, it was my handler. He drove through the fence. He had a clicker, so remote control, so he could open the fence. So he drove his car in, and he was so drunk he passed out in the front seat. And I saw that, and I tried to get him out of the car so that I could get out of the compound, take the car. I couldn't get him out of the car in time, and I got in the car and drove it. I had bare feet, no money, barely any clothes on, and I headed north with him in the car because I couldn't get him out of the car. So basically, I kidnapped him and headed north, and I was heading from Monterey up to Seattle, where I'd been accepted to university, and I was going to go there. No one in my life knew that. I did it all in secret, but I had to get from Monterey to Seattle in time to register and start university and start my new life. And all the time I was driving north, I was basically throwing away memories. So by the time I got to Seattle, I had no recollection of my life before that time, and I completely started over and no longer did the music. I stopped singing. I stopped performing. I decided to go into science, which I decided was the exact opposite of entertainment, and uh, decided I'd go to medical school without a real idea of what that entailed, but I was going to do it, and I did it, and left that life behind. But then when my daughter was born, when I was 30 years old, things started to come back to me. And that was the beginning of my process of remembering the childhood in MK Ultra. And this is happening to people now. I mean, lots of people contact me and say, I can't remember my childhood. I can't remember my life up to the age of 12. I can't, there's big blanks. And when you're talking to things that happen when people were children, that's how children handle extreme abuse, terror, and situations that are so paralyzing that they can't carry them forward. You either jettison them completely or they take you down. Um, I was fortunate that I was able to jettison them completely, move into medical school, graduate at the top of my class, start a practice. And then I was invited to Russia, and the story changed again because I ran into human trafficking. I was invited to help reform infant and maternal health care and discovered very soon that children were being taken right after birth and disappearing or disappearing from orphanages and baby houses. And so I followed that trail, and I discovered that children were being trafficked into Russia, through Russia, out of Russia, and several years and many grants. I was one of the first recipients of a Trafficking in Persons State Department grant to do a study of where trafficking victims' children were coming from and where they were going. And I don't think anyone anticipated the results because the results showed that the three main countries receiving trafficked children from all over the world were Germany, Israel, and the United States. And I thought, so I went to these places. I actually got a good response from Israel, who then sent several Knesset representatives to my office in Moscow. And eventually I had the Knesset on speed dial, and we could call them and get victims returned safely to Russia from them through the Russian consulate. So I thought I'd have the same results in the United States. No, I went to the UN, I went to Congress, I went to the State Department, I went to the tip office. No one would even listen to my presentation. I mean, I had 500,000 data points proving the case of the people being sent to the US. I had flights, I had destinations. I knew the two top cities were Brighton Beach and Virginia Beach on the East Coast. And no one would listen. We had flights, we had locations, we had names, nothing, no interest at all. And I realized it was probably because the real purpose of the Trafficking Person Office was to show that the United States was absolutely clean, had no human trafficking, had no problems. And here I was, their own grantee, discovering that that wasn't the case at all. But this was in 2004, so we're talking, almost a quarter of a century ago, and things have only gotten worse because of the
Yeah.
access to electronic communications. They had just started doing using well, it was the precursor to Bitcoin, which really facilitates human trafficking because you can do almost unregistered transfers. I'm not talking about the official Bitcoin. I'm talking about all kinds of underworld schemes to transfer money via the internet, which can be done. And that makes human trafficking very difficult to detect and follow. Um, so I came back to the US in 2010, and I've been trying ever since I decided it was time to write my book. So I wrote Sparky, and it's now in the top 10 best-selling list on Amazon in its categories. And I also wrote Angels Over Moscow, which talks about my experiences um, in in Russia. I mean, how I did that. How did one American go to Russia and create an underground railroad that eventually we rescued? And I have total documentation for this. We eventually rescued over 70,000 people, meaning we developed systems that brought them back. And so when I hear in Ohio that they rescued 42 children, I'm going to contact the sheriff there and inform them how we used the people that we rescued to create nets, because each one of those people have contacts to many other people, and maybe they're already doing this. But you can turn 40 rescues into 400 rescues by working with the survivors. But the survivors need help, and there are survivors groups all over the United States right now and trying to help each other because it's a problem. When the Trafficking in Persons report comes out every year and says we don't have trafficking, then there's no money, no support, no reason for anyone to respond to trafficking survivors. So I think it's providential that I was one of the first uh, grantees of the tip office, that I found this link between European and Russian trafficking and the United States. And now I'm here um, pointing out and clearly what I discovered applies to South America. And you mentioned the 500,000 children coming over the border during the Biden administration, and then the State Department claiming they don't know where they went. That's ridiculous. You can follow it. They went into a series of transportation companies who had contracts. Then they said, well, they don't know where they took them. Well, State Department contracts don't work that way. I mean, when you have one, having had them myself, you document every coffee break, every pencil, so nobody bought gas anywhere without reporting it. And so they know perfectly well where they went. there's the problem. There's the mind control. We're not supposed to look. If the State Department says,
Yeah.
"Oh, we lost them. That's 500,000 people. We don't know where they went," and only people like me stand up and say, "No, it's absolutely not.
Yeah,
Not
you know
true."
the story too well, and yeah, and how it works, and you've been there, and you have an amazing story. I'm very proud of you. You became a physician, you raised a family, you later founded the Underground Railroad in Moscow to rescue child trafficking victims, and you're still fighting for the
I
victims
still
and the people who are recovering. And your book is doing amazing. I want to remind everyone as we wrap up here, Juliet, where people can find your book, because this is a wonderful story that you can tell about your history, your past, and how you recovered and continue to fight. So again, this is on Amazon, correct?
It's on Amazon, or you can go to my website and it will take you to my publisher. And actually, if you just put my name in Google, it'll take you to my website, and you can buy it there or on Amazon. And it's a fairly quick read, but it is as honest as I could be about what it is like to be a child in human trafficking. And I think it's well, you can read the reviews. It's gotten 4.8 stars. And it's done very well. I expected a lot of blowback about it, but the blowback doesn't come from the American people. The blowback comes from the State Department, from the International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Bureau, who tried to shut me down in Moscow, absolutely harassed me. And they are responsible for taking me off of Wikipedia for the rest of my life. They sent a delegation to my office saying, you will never, ever be on Wikipedia. I said, okay, I don't care.
We know what it's like to be censored. We deal with it all the
Yes.
time. Dr.
right.
Engel, yes, and I'm eager to put this up on social media today and see what kind of strikes I get. But that's what we do, and that's what we deal with every day. But we continue to fight. I would love to talk to you more. Love your story, truly, and I'm proud of you and everything you've accomplished and overcome, and the fight that you continue to endure to end child trafficking for our innocent, the most vulnerable out there. Thank you for coming on today. I encourage everyone to go out and buy your book, and we'll be in contact.
Thank you.
And we have more news headlines when we come back, including our Maha Mom segment and the dangers of cyberbullying. But first, a patriotic message as we celebrate America's 250th birthday.
"24 notes should be the stronghold of Memorial Day of our country. Every time we hear the 24 notes reminds us that the freedom we have today to be here, the freedom that we have to go home at night, the freedom we have to worship, the freedom we have to speak freely in public, the freedom that we have to disagree with our government comes from those 24 notes. Do not ever pass by those 24 notes. For each note can take a memory, a life, a family member, a service that was rendered, a service that was kept. It's a reminder that we only have one chance to get it right when we honor those that have given so much to us."
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice. Speak freely, connect boldly, and be part of a growing movement for truth, faith, and freedom. Want to know what's happening right now? The Now Playing feature shows you exactly who's live and what's streaming in real time. Check out the show's feed, a non-stop lineup including LINDELLTV News 24/7, shows and on-demand programming all in one place. Connect with your favorite host and never miss a show. Explore the featured page for quick access to LINDELLTV's top shows. Follow your favorites and watch their newest content flow right into your feed. And when they go live on Vocal, you can join the live chat and be part of the action. Ask questions, share your thoughts, even help shape future shows. Stay informed on issues around securing our elections by following your state's Cause of America account. Join a group and connect on a deeper level, from faith and freedom to the future of our nation. Go to vocal.com or download the app today and be a part of the mission to save our country.
This morning, a new push is underway over what our children are watching on television. America First Legal is calling on the FCC to press for reforms to children's programming. The group argues parents are not getting clear enough warnings about certain themes and content, including cartoons containing LGBTQ themes. Entertainment standards are continuing to evolve on TV and streaming platforms. America First Legal is arguing that the FCC should warn parents about what's on the programming, saying the current structure is outdated. They want stronger transparency to help families make informed viewing decisions. Supporters say the effort is about protecting parental rights and giving moms and dads better tools to monitor what children watch. Meanwhile, the U.S. Surgeon General is warning against cyberbullying as we head into the summer months. Kids are out of school and many will be online. The Surgeon General says in teenagers, they are seeing mental health effects, especially related to social media, around depression, low self-esteem, and body image concerns. Nearly 5 out of 10 teenagers have been cyberbullied. Cyberbullying can happen through texting, gaming apps, social media, YouTube comments, group chats, and even school platforms. The goal is not only to protect our kids from it, but also help them feel safe telling an adult when something happens. You can keep communication open, delay or limit social media for younger children, and know the apps they use. You can use parental controls and privacy settings. Kids now spend as much or more time on screens than they do sleeping or in school, and that's very alarming. And what they experience online can affect their mental health. You can teach your kids to be kind online. No bullying, no teasing, no embarrassing comments. Protect personal information like your home address, your school name, passwords, and location. Another tool, think before posting. Is it kind? Is it true? And it's okay to make rules. Devices off at bedtime, no secret accounts, and parents periodically check devices for safety. It's the summer. We can put down the phones and tablets, enjoy family time, outdoor play, hobbies, and spending time with your friends. Let's see how the markets are opening today with a live look from MarketWatch.com. The Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ all down at this hour. Investors, they're mixed right now as they watch Iran developments, oil prices, inflation concerns, and AI-driven tech momentum. Key inflation data still expected later this week. Markets closed at record highs again yesterday. When we come back, an unusual animal story is drawing global attention and plenty of social media laughs. We'll introduce you to Donald Trump the buffalo next.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets. Regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
In your news to go, a quick glimpse of other news headlines we're following this morning. A former CIA official is behind bars after federal agents say they uncovered more than $40 million in gold bars, cash, and luxury watches hidden inside his Virginia home. Investigators accuse David Rush of fraud and financial crimes tied to his time in the CIA, alleging he used fake expense requests to obtain gold and foreign currency. Authorities also claim he falsified parts of his military and academic background. The FBI and Department of Justice say the investigation is ongoing and more charges are possible. The Republican National Committee is claiming a major election integrity win in North Carolina after a judge ruled that so-called never residents, that's people who never have lived in North Carolina, cannot vote in the state's elections. The RNC and North Carolina GOP called the ruling a win for secure elections and voter confidence, saying the decision reinforces that only North Carolina residents should cast ballots in North Carolina. The legal battle centered around overseas voters whose parents once lived in the state, even though the voters themselves never have. Republicans argued the practice violated the state constitution, and now the court agrees. Looking at President Trump's schedule for today, at 8 o'clock this morning, he held an executive meeting. At 2 p.m., he holds signing time in the Oval Office. Also at 2 p.m., there will be a press briefing. Secretary Scott Bessent will preside over the press briefing today. We will have a crew there inside the press briefing room. Then at 3:30 this afternoon, the president will hold a policy meeting. For all of your top news headlines today and always, you can log on to LINDELLTV.com. And you can also download the LINDELLTV app. It is free in your app store. Trending online this morning, Donald Trump, the buffalo. A rare albino buffalo in Bangladesh has gone viral after locals nicknamed him Donald Trump because of its light-colored hair that many say resembles the president's signature hairstyle. I'll have to agree. Well, the buffalo quickly became a tourist attraction. Crowds are showing up to see Donald Trump. The animal was originally expected to be sold for sacrifice, but after the viral attention, officials stepped in and transferred the buffalo to a national zoo instead. So Donald Trump was saved, and he's now a top tourist attraction. Too cute. Now to our Bible verse of the day, coming from the book of John. Jesus said this, "In that day you will not question me about anything. Truly, truly, I say to you, if you ask the Father for anything in my name, he will give it to you. Until now you have asked for nothing in my name. Ask and you will receive, so that your joy may be made full." And that'll do it for us here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you all same time, same place tomorrow. And we leave you today with sights from New York. Have a great day.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
America's founders warned that without knowledge and virtue, no nation can remain free. Yet through the steady infiltration of Marxist ideology, we have been stripped of both, and we are no longer a moral and educated people. To save America, we must spark nothing less than a national renaissance. That's why you need Freedom Talk Magazine, the journal of truth and virtue. We cultivate enlightened thinking and principled living, offering unique insights into the issues and remarkable people defining our world. Sign up today for your free subscription to Freedom Talk Magazine and join the new American Renaissance.
Well, hello, everyone. Well, I'm turning 65, and let me tell you, Medicare has me confused. All the junk mail and the robocalls and everything else, it honestly feels like they rigged the system just to confuse us. Well, that's why I partnered and working with Chapter. They're independent, and they don't work for big insurance. They work for us. In fact, they're the only advisor that compares every single plan nationwide to find what actually fits your needs. If you're on the right plan, they tell you. If you're not, they're going to help you switch. And it's completely free. Just last year, seniors saved about $1,100 by finding a better plan with Chapter. So call Chapter at 234-LINDELL or go to askchapter.org/Lindell. You know, most people think water's just about filtration, but in reality, it's about balance. What gets removed, what gets left behind, and how the water actually behaves once you drink it. Well, many traditional systems focus on one thing, removal. Reverse osmosis, for example, strips water down completely. It may sound ideal, but it removes minerals that our bodies need. The Century Wellness System was designed with a different philosophy. It removes common contaminants like chlorine, fluoride, and PFAS while restoring key minerals like magnesium and improving alkalinity. It also does all this without tanks and without wastewater and without requiring a complicated installation. It installs in about 15 minutes under your sink, so instead of overcorrecting, it brings your water back into balance. Please visit CenturyH2O.com and use promo code Lindell for 10% off your next purchase. Mike Lindell here. The radical left and the deep state aren't just coming for our freedoms, they're coming after our money too. For years, they've been destroying our economy from the inside out with reckless spending, open borders, woke policies that crush our businesses. And now they've left us with an inflation disaster that's wiping out the savings of our hardworking families. They don't want us to be independent. They want us to be dependent on the government. Well, that's not going to happen on my watch. That's why I partner with American Independence Gold. It's a veteran-owned company that's helping patriotic Americans fight back by protecting our savings with real physical gold and silver. And right now, they're giving away up to $15,000 in free silver and a free gold IRA kit. A portion of all the profits go to 9/11 first responders and veterans at the Tunnels to Towers Foundation. The deep state can't touch your gold, so visit MikeLindellGold.com or call 844-714-4653 right now. That's MikeLindellGold.com. Take back control.